with Jasmine brand. I'm super excited today. I have actor and comedian Lil Rel Howery. How are you doing?
I am doing good.
You are so, I told you when you came, I was like, you look nice.
I mean, I try to be fly.
You
know
are
what I mean?
fly. Like, not old man, not young. It's like somewhere in between.
I'm about to be 43 years old.
Okay. Do you feel like you,
I'm enjoying aging. I couldn't wait to be an older black man.
but it's different because you're a man and you guys can age, you know, you talk about, we won't get into the special, but it's different for men, but you look nice. I feel like you look age appropriate. You don't look too old. You don't look too young. You got the Jordans on, but then you got the jet. Okay, but anyway, you look good. I want to start from the beginning, and I want to know, at what point did you know you were funny?
I think the first thing was that I knew I loved comedy.
Okay.
And so I was like, nah. When I was like, oh, Eddie Murphy. Like, it was funny. I watched Delirious for the first time at a youth conference. The church.
At a youth conference?
Because, you know, they couldn't regulate what channels we watch.
Okay.
So they had HBO.
Nice. Nice.
So I'm 9 years old watching Delirious. Like, this is hilarious. A lot of cursing.
Yes.
But Eddie was the first influence. Then A Living Color, the Wayans family, Robert Townsend, huge influence.
Yeah.
And then like I just started watching a lot of random stand-up shows. Like
Okay.
I would like stay up late at home after Saturday Night Live went off. Used to be a show, Louis Anderson hosted a stand-up show, random, and I used to be up watching it. I told Louis that too, actually.
Wow.
And he was actually pretty shocked. He's like, hey, how old are you? I was like, I was a kid, bro.
Right. So you were a fan of comedy first.
Yeah.
When did you realize that you were funny or you had the potential to be funny?
Well, you know, realistically, it was in a play in high school, my senior year, and the teacher let me write my lines.
Okay.
And I went to a hood school in Chicago, so they
Okay.
didn't like they'll heckle anybody. You know what I mean? They're, like somebody like, well, you can beat somebody, but shut up. You know what I mean? It was that. But when we did the play, I remember the first kind of joke line I wrote, and just the roar of the crowd. I was like, oh, this could be a thing.
Right.
And that was a tough crowd, so like to get them laughing. That's when the bug kind of like, once you get that group of people laughing, it gets addictive.
Is it like a high? Is it kind
Yeah.
of like a, do you remember the joke or the line? Or
I don't even remember. I think it was something stupid. Like I think I ended the scene. I was like, bang, 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 ski, ski, ski. They like, ah! And I was like,
Okay.
I'll kill it.
So it was that moment. First of all, you grew up loving comedy and watching comics, and then you wrote your senior year in high school?
Yep.
Okay. So when did you decide that you wanted to be a comedian?
Right. And this is 100% a true story. I think at the last show we did, because we did a show for the freshmen and sophomores and then for the juniors and seniors.
Okay.
And they let me get like a period off. So I sat in the auditorium, literally by myself in the dark, just staring at the stage. It's a true story. And I was just like, all right, God, this is what I want to do. Like, I want to be a stand-up comic, I want to be an actor, and I want to write it.
Okay.
And I just looked and I was like, I don't know where to start,
Right.
but cool.
Is anybody in your family funny?
Everybody from, I'm black.
Well, you black, yeah.
Yeah.
But like nobody else is in Hollywood.
Nah.
Like no one was. Cause were your parents educators or something like that?
Well, my aunts and my uncles, principals and
Okay.
teachers. So I come from an educational
Okay.
family, but no, I'm the first of the family to do this.
Okay. So what do? You start going to local. Chicago has a big comedy scene.
Well, also what's crazy, the Chicago Sun-Times used to have this, but they don't have it in the newspaper no more, but it used to be like a little magazine every Friday that listed all the entertainment stuff. So
Okay.
it just had a spot that just said comedy clubs.
Okay.
So I've been looking at this newspaper since I was a kid. So by the time I graduated high school, I turned 18, I wasn't old enough to get in any of the clubs, but what I did, which was smart, I showed up really early.
Okay.
So I was like, damn, they helped them set up. They didn't know if I worked there or not, you know what I mean? Just so nobody went to check my ID. I got there before security got there. So I literally helped them set up. They're like, who's that brother that work here? But they didn't know. It was just so I could sign the list. And yeah, that's how I got started.
How did you figure out how to tell jokes?
If you watch enough of it, you get an idea of it. So you talking about watching Eddie, watching Comic View all the time, watching Def Jam, just watching stuff. And then you kind of throw yourself, because somebody asked me, like, how did I do my first show? And I'm like, I don't know. I was just happy to go on that stage and do it. So I could have bombed. I have no idea if I did good or bad, because I was just happy
To be there.
and just like to just tell my jokes as if, and then I was recording myself too, which was smart. You know what
You're
I mean?
like, I was so smart.
No, it was because I was able to listen to myself. I mean, I remember the first time I got booed.
Oh yeah, when was that? How was that?
Oh, that was so crazy. It was so crazy because it's one of my homeboys. He's a DJ, comedy DJ Dollar Bill. And I remember I was having a bad set. The reason why I was having a bad set, first of all, I had no face. I look like a kid on stage cursing.
You still look young.
Now, but imagine like 19, 20-year-old me. It was like no facial hair. I literally was like that baby up there cussing. Somebody yelled at me. That baby up there cussing. I'm like, lady, you shut up. And I started trying to roast her. She's like, it just looked disrespectful. Some people started booing. And he played Someone Please Call 911 by Wyclef Jean. And so imagine walking off the stage and here's Someone Please Call. It was the saddest walk off ever. Damon Williams from Chicago was hosting.
He was there that night?
It was his spot. He roasted me. So it was so fun. That was such a crazy night because there was a lot of firsts that night.
Okay.
That was the first night me and my homeboy found a strip club we can go to that was 18 and up.
I didn't know those existed. Exist.
Yeah, it was. So after I get off stage or whatever, I sit there I'm waiting on him to get off work. Everybody left and I'm outside in the cold. And Damon, he about to leave. Damon and he just roasted me for like 15 minutes.
So you just sat there through it?
He's like, yo, man, come on, sit in the car. I was like, no, I was like, no, I don't want to sit in your car. You just talked about it.
Right.
I said, come on, brother, it's cold. And so I sit in the car and I remember him I feel like he was forced to give me positive advice. Like, yeah, man, just keep on keeping on, man. You know, just, it's how it be sometimes.
Right.
And then my friend pulled up and I left. I remember I didn't even make eye contact with him. I think I had my arms folded
Yeah, you were crushed.
But I came back next week and Damon wasn't there the next week. Corey Holcomb was there. And I had a really good set. I listened to him and my brother was cracking up Someone Please Call 911.
Did you think about quitting after that first time that you got booed?
No.
No?
It's addictive. It's
the laughing, the attention,
not even just that. I don't like to lose or feel like I could have did something better. And so, yeah, I came back next week with a whole new set, different than what I did, and had a great set. And Corey Holcomb, and I don't even know if Corey even remembered that. He was like, hey, man, hey, Shorty gonna be funny, man. He called me Shorty. I told you I was like a kid. So everybody
right.
Hey, he's funny than a lot of y'all. I'm like, wow, okay, that was cool.
What was your goal back then? Like, I know who your idols are. Was it to be as big as them, or was it to just get to Hollywood to act? What was the...
No goals for real at first. At first, it was just because I truly love stand-up comedy and wanted to see if I can actually do it.
Okay. What were you doing to survive in terms of like money and living and...
Well, that's the great thing. I started like 1920, so I ain't...
You were living at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
I ain't had no responsibility,
right.
No kids. So it was just it's like really, every dime I truly, really made has been through comedy.
So you never really had jobs?
The last job I had was at Victoria's Secret. And my cousin Darrell got me a job in the stock. Now this thing back, when I worked at Victoria's Secret, I used to dress up every day. I worked at the stock, I didn't have to dress up.
Oh, okay.
But
you were in the back stocking. Okay.
Was steaming, I was stocking, we had to steam lingerie. Like I learned a lot about lingerie and all that stuff.
I bet you did, yeah.
Yeah, so it was back to just steaming it. And I know how thin the stuff is and how hot you can get it, or if there's too much heat, you can burn it, you know.
Yep.
I know way too much about lingerie. But yeah, that was the last job I had.
And so when did you start gaining momentum? Yeah.
I think you have several breaks.
Right.
I don't think it's just one. I know for me, booking Comic View was a big deal. I look at the first 3 or 4 years for me, I was like a fly on the wall, and I was just learning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was just learning. I came like D-Ray was somebody that was mentoring me at the time, Deion Cole, JB Smooth.
Wow. And
I was just kind of just learning. So I used to live with 2 other comedians, Michi Hall and Brian the Wildcat Smith was my roommates. And I was doing funny stuff and funny jokes. But I used to tell all these stories all the time. Like we'll have like girls over at the house and we try to entertain them. I'd be doing characters and all types of stuff. And one of the road trips we was on one day to do a college, and I was telling one of my random family stories, and they was like, dude, why you don't do none of this stuff on stage? I'm like, no, I mean, I got the jokes. Like, no, this is way funnier than any jokes you tell us these stories all the time.
Right.
And I think Michi was just like, I dare you. Like, I don't like no dares. Maybe you scared to do. I ain't scared to do nothing. And I'll never forget, I think it was my 21st birthday at Riddle's Comedy Club in Chicago. D-Ray had a night there. And I decided to just throw away all the stuff and just talk about my family and how I grew up. And it killed. And I'm like, ooh. And it's like, I look up to Eddie, why haven't I been doing this? I think I was just nervous about it.
Yeah.
I was like, do people even understand what I'm talking about, even care? But that changed the way I did stand-up after that.
So you think initially you were telling jokes, but then you kind of pivoted to like telling stories.
Yeah, well, telling stories and just keeping it really personal.
Yeah.
You know, I was, you know, you're still able to do topical stuff, but for the most part, when I started getting like these characters I started creating were all from real people I met. And once I started doing that, that really changed my career.
I think I read that you were passed over for Bad Boys of Comedy, but that resulted in you getting the Lollapalooza Festival.
So Jamie Foxx's Laugh-A-Palooza.
Okay, Laugh-A-Palooza.
But
Sorry.
That's one of like my, we keep saying breaks, but like I have breaks in like faith-based stories, right?
Okay.
Like, so when Bad Boys of Comedy first came out, it felt like they picked everybody but me. Like everybody came back with the shirt, because that's when they used to get everybody Sean John and Will, so everybody had their little Sean John jogging suits. And they was all at the comedy club, and I was just so mad. I remember leaving, going home, just like, God, I'm about to quit, man. Well, I know I'm funnier than most of these people. Why am I getting picked for? I keep getting passed over for stuff. And I remember it was a really emotional night. I remember being angry, like literally yelling at God. And then I just calmed down, you know, in my face. God has always calmed me down. I was like, God, be rubbing my back, all right, chill. And I woke up the next morning, and I got an email from Jamie Foxx's Laugh-A-Palooza that they wanted to select me for new faces. But I didn't submit. That's what was crazy about it. The year before that I submitted, and I'm like, I ain't got $50 to waste like that to do this again. You know, so I didn't submit the next year, and they picked me anyway.
Wow.
And then that night I went to, when NBC first started doing stand-up diversity programs. And I made it all the way to the final show. But that night, that's when I met Kirsten Ames, who used to work at the HBO Aspen Festival. So it was people like, yo, you have something. It was that weird day.
Right.
After that craziness, and I was complaining, and then I woke up the next day, and that's when my confidence started.
Shifted,
yeah.
Okay. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Brutally Honest with Jasmine Brand. I'm here with Lil Rel. I want to ask you, at what point did you know that you officially made it? Was it a certain role, or was it a certain stand-up situation?
It's tough, man, because like I said, it's like sections of it.
Okay.
So, let's see. Yeah, Comic View, and that was great. Who Got Jokes is a show called Bill Bellamy's Who Got Jokes on TV One. That kind of changed the trajectory of who I am in Chicago. So I was already kind of brewing. I had some heat to me. Another show that I necessarily wasn't picked for, but I think last minute somebody dropped out. Carl Craig, rest in peace, hit me up and told me to come do the show. That episode, I was going against a Chicago hot comic, hot radio host now to this day on WGCI named Leon Rogers.
Okay.
And Leon was the guy, you know what I'm saying? Nobody thought I could beat Leon. Man, I was in a zone. Standing ovation for both 3-minute sets. Watching Bill and Tommy, rest in peace, Tommy Ford, who was also one of the judges, and they to have them do my jokes back on going to commercial break. I was like, oh, this is different.
Right.
But I knew when I won in Chicago and the way people were going crazy. That's how I met Tiffany Haddish was that night.
Really?
She had won in LA, and I just won my episode, and I'm backstage. I'm like, adrenaline's going crazy. And I hear somebody say, hey, you funny as hell. I'm like, who is this loud ass girl? And she walked over to me, we gonna be best friends. I'm like, who are you, lady?
You do the.
Dude, Tiffany is every girl I ever grew up with. And so that's why we hit it off right away. It's that's how we met. Back then, she became my first LA friend.
Oh, nice.
So winning Who Got Jokes gave me the confidence and was like, oh, I can. And that's when I went into my whole thing about running Chicago.
Okay.
Which at Laugh-A-Palooza, Jamie Foxx's old manager, Marcus King, at one of the panels said, if you wanted, he was saying new comics, the greatest thing you could do is before you try to, chase Hollywood dreams and things like that, run your city first. If you could be the man in your city, then leave, watch what happens. And so that was my goal. I remember I had a little notepad wrote it down, be the man in Chicago. And that's what I believe that's what I accomplished, to be honest with you.
I feel like Chicago has a lot of legendary comics, some that aren't known and some that are known. What do you think it is about Chicago that kind of breeds
Segregation.
Chicago is segregated.
It's very, and the reason why I say that is you have to be so, like you have to make so many different people laugh in that city. And we talking about like just different black people sometimes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's so many different people and so many, like everything's on its own thing, on island.
Right.
So if you go to all these different spots doing comedy, you literally have to figure out what's my voice and stick to it, which is where I'm so glad I started in Chicago.
I want to talk about your comedy special. I said it, y'all thinking it. I read that what motivated you in terms of your latest special was that you felt like you were kind of left out of the conversation in terms of other comedians or comedy. Is that accurate?
My whole career has been stand-up. That's where I started at. That's all I've done, back to back. Every stand-up show you could think of, whatever. That's what I've been on. But then like after Get Out and I started booking all these movies, I think people forgot that I did stand-up. And it annoyed me, right? Because it's like, and I didn't care at first, but I'm like, until I started touring and people like, man, we just thought, we didn't know. I'm like, wait, I did all these shows though. What are you talking? That's how I got here, you know?
Right, yeah.
At some point, I'm like, okay, I want to be in a conversation as one of the best doing this. And I'm like, I'm never in that conversation.
Okay.
And I'm like, why is that, real? I'm like, maybe because I don't tour as much and I don't have time because I'm shooting all these movies now.
Because you're so big in Hollywood.
Not like that, but it's like.
No, but you are an actor.
I know, but then it was like, let me show y'all. And that's why I was like, okay, this special has to be different, right? This one, I had to make it bigger this time. Let me do the bigger one. And that's what like we did Chicago Theater. Jesse Collins produced it with me.
I saw that at the end.
And which Jesse's big, you know, the award shows, like Super Bowls. I'm like, cool. And I was happy he said yes. He's like, cool. And then Ali Leroy, who directed it, you know, worked with Bernie Mac directly, show ran Everybody Hates Chris. You know, he's that guy. And so, okay, let's do it big. And we did Chicago Theater, and it felt big. And I mean, from like everything I did with this special literally was like, I remember I was getting like picked on at school one day, and I stood up for myself and roasted everybody that was talking crazy. But I came home and I was so upset though, because it was, you know, I stood up to him, but it was hurtful.
Yeah.
You know, and so my mother was just like, someday they gonna all change your name, and you have these lights, and you don't have to worry about them. And so I remember that, which is why, like in the beginning, I don't have a regular intro like "Give It Up for Lil Rel." It's a chant. Yeah. You know, Rel. But that's based off my mom saying that. And so I was like, cool. I called my homeboy Truth. He's a producer in Chicago. Shout out to Truth. I said, man, can you give me that chant? Because the chant comes from two things. A little flip song. Flip. Game over. Flip. So, you know, we did the chant. And it was electric when it came out. And then I kept hearing this house track in my head. Everybody think it's Kanye's track, but it's not.
It's not?
He took it from an old house song.
Oh, but we're not from Chicago. We don't know house.
I know.
We don't know
So I know. So that's why it was cheap for me to get, because I got the original track. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but
they didn't hit you over the head.
They didn't kill me with it. Because I paid for almost everything. Like all the clearances, every music thing, the Lean On Me, all that had to be paid for. Out of my pocket.
But just for doing that little bit, you had to pay for it?
Because I did the song.
But you're not, okay.
It's so crazy. Yeah, and HBO was like, we get this your budget, so if you want that stuff, you got to pay for it.
Right.
Like, well, I will then.
One of my favorite parts, it was hilarious, but the end really made me feel like it was Chicago smoking on, hey. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, he is from Chicago.
They opened the show. So we decided to put the opening at the end with them. And,
I loved it.
But the crowd didn't know Crucial Conflict was going to be there. I called them. I was at a bar one day like, yo, do y'all mind opening for me? I mean, I know it sounds weird. He's like, Rel, we'll do whatever. I'm like, cool. Oh. The audience went crazy. They came out there.
I did, and we were at home watching it.
The energy was on 10. So by the time I got to the stage, and it was kind of tough because, you know, I have comedian friends out there, and they're like, oh, this is a big opportunity. But I'm like, no disrespect to nobody, but this is what I want to do. It's all about me.
Well, they thought you should have
had some comics open.
Oh.
So I just
but it's just is that typical?
I had comics open my other specials.
Okay.
And it's typical. Most of the time I have a warm-up comic.
But you just don't see that. We don't, just the audience, when we watch at home, we just see you. We don't see the open.
Well, what you try to do is most of the time is get them warm, right? And you kind of gauge where they at.
Okay.
What I did was Eddie Murphy had the bus boys, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 1, 2. Those cats opened up for Delirious.
Oh, okay.
And then Richard Pryor had Patti LaBelle open for him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Musical act. He says it because as soon as Richard get on stage, people just getting back to their seats because she had just performed.
Right.
And he kind of was like, look, I'm ready to go on stage.
Right.
And he talks about literally in the beginning about, he said, give it up for Patti LaBelle.
Interesting. Okay, so that has something to do with why you chose.
Yeah, and it felt big. And it was probably the smartest decision I could have ever made because the energy was insane.
I bet. It felt so like organic. It felt like, I was like, oh, this is Chicago. Like this makes sense.
It felt like somebody wrote recently on one of those lists, I made one of those top 10 lists or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, it felt like we was at a block club party in Chicago.
Oh, nice.
I love that.
Nice.
That's like exactly what that felt like.
So part of the motivation was you wanted to remind us that I'm still one of the best to do. Do you, in terms of comedy, do you feel like you're underrated?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Cause I know we hail like Chappelle and everybody like that, but like, I know I can do every part of comedy. Okay. So if you want me to go topical, I can do that. If you want me to do musical comedy, I can do that. If you want me to freestyle, I can do that. If you heckling me, want to get roasted, I can do that. I have all those aspects of comedy, and that's because of Chicago.
Right, okay.
I think sometimes when I see somebody just do something with one beat to it, it's like, yeah, you can talk about it. That's all you do is talk about everybody else, but who are you?
Yeah. You're competitive. Yeah. I feel like that's the best comedians are. Y'all are kind of like.
Well, I'm competitive, but I love it. And so like, if you are who you are, I'm gonna always show, like Gerard Carmichael's Rothaniel special was brilliant. Mm-hmm. It was so honest. It was one of the most brilliant pieces of art I think I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It's so many people. I love comedy, so it's a gang of people. I mean, rest in peace, David Arnold. Those Netflix specials he put out was just dope, man, because it was like, man, thank you for like just being a great stand-up. Mm-hmm. Like, you hit everything, bro. And a lot of times I think, once again, we only kind of like host one or two people up as this thing, but I'm like, nah, it's a good group of us out here. It's like any day, any stage. Yeah. Like, let's go.
Yeah. Well, and I felt bad now that I'm here. Not felt bad, but when you came in, I was like, yo, I forgot you were funny. Like, cause I look at you as an actor who's funny, but you really are a comedian first, right?
Well, that's the dope thing too. I was like, I became such a really good actor that people like. So this is my thing too.
Which is a gift. It's a gift in a curse.
But this is my thing. This is why, like, recently is the only time I've ever really said something. I'm like, okay, I'm a little irritated. Like, how am I not like the way we praise everybody else? Because I'm like, wait, I have my own sitcom.
Right. Yeah.
I'm in a movie that won an Oscar. It ain't too many cats that can say that.
Yes.
Most of my movies are really successful.
Yeah.
I'm like, so what else do I got to do to be in a conversation?
But that makes you to me, it makes you an actor. You are a comedian.
Cool, but fine. But that still should put me in a conversation.
It should. I'm not saying you should be in the conversation.
I did everything you could think of. I did the Chitlin Circuit. I was on Comic View, and then Who Got Jokes.
But you understand that when a lot of us that are not in, I'm not a big comedy fan. I just watch it, right?
Well, it's the hype machine. Look, I say this. It's on me.
Okay.
I'm not like the guy that's like, I want all these articles written. I want to be on the cover of everything. I always say, let the work speak for itself. Yes. That was always my thing. But it just got a little irritating. And that's why, like, honestly, this is probably, man, this special is the most, out of all my stand-up stuff, the most love I've been getting.
It's like funny. Crazy. When I see you on shows and in movies, I was like, oh, he's so, like, he's good, he's funny. But I don't think like, oh, because at the core, he's a comedian. I just think like, oh, he's a big, even when I see you, I think, oh, he's a big actor.
That's how I got here though. Like, I had to rip these showcases.
Right.
I'm a short black dude with glasses. You know what I mean? This ain't like they searching for it. Let's see some little short dudes with glasses, man. That's marketable now.
Right.
You gotta, I like worked those showcases, those auditions.
Yeah, you put the work in.
I mean, Living Color was really my first, that's a big break for me. Even though
it was a reboot.
Reboot.
Yes.
And Keenan Ivory Wayans handpicked me. I mean, it was so fun. I'll never forget, like, when we did the test, the callback test or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you see like Kel Mitchell's there. Like, and you like, whoa, that's who I mean, no, but I was like, wow, I beat cats I like looked up to.
Right.
And working with Keenan was, even though, you guys never saw the reboot. So I grew up with a number of old black men in my family. So I wasn't scared of Keenan. Like, a lot of people was intimidated by him on our set.
I bet, yeah.
But not me, because I grew up around old black man that's cool like that. I remember he was so irritated with me the first few times because I was sitting eating lunch with him. He's like, dude, you could sit somewhere else. Like, nope, I will not, sir. I had no idea I was gonna meet you someday. I wrote a show called Name Your Adventure to meet you. It used to be a show on NBC called Name Your Adventure.
Okay.
I literally wrote the show to go to a living color to meet King Ivory.
Wow.
But they can't. I mean, he sent me a letter like, hey, show is canceled. We're so sorry, young man. Keep dreaming.
Keep dreaming. So wait a minute. So you would go and you would sit and while he was eating lunch, you'd be just like.
Yeah, and just ask him questions. And then he started, I think he just got used to it and just started telling me the most amazing stories at lunch.
Really?
Man, some of the funniest things I've ever heard. Hollywood just, if he ever did his own like version of like Charlie Murphy, True Hollywood Stories with King Ivory Wayans.
Because he's a legend. He's been around since the beginning.
He's brilliant, man. He's so, like, it's so funny. Like, the reason why I think a lot of those writers were intimidated by him because of, and some of them like wrote on SNL and different things like that, but they had this type of beat they write. He's about the joke being bam, bam, bam. That's why those sketches were so funny.
Yeah.
It's like they wouldn't stop hitting you with jokes.
Yeah, okay.
And SNL has a different beat where it kind of let it linger before. It could be 2 minutes of a sketch before it's funny to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Living Color was like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And a lot of those cats can adjust to that. I thought that was really interesting.
You know how they say Tyler Perry shoots really fast?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like probably he's like.
Well, Keenan's not fast. He just wants the jokes.
The joke to be fast.
He wants the jokes to be. He just feel like it should be like a machine gun of jokes.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is why you think about it. Like you think about all their hilarious sketches. You didn't have time to breathe.
Yeah. And then you would miss things too if you like.
You have to go rewatch stuff. I'll go rewatch now and I laugh at.
Yeah.
And that's been their MO. If you think about, what Sean and Marlon was able to do. You think about Don't Be a Menace. Those scary movie franchise, we forget that's the Wayans.
Yeah, it is.
That's why it's so funny.
Yeah.
Because they're not stopping.
Yeah. I forget about that. Okay, let's take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Brutally Honest with Jasmine Brand. I'm here with Lil Rel Howery. Can we talk about one of my interesting moment in this special? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to give too much away. You talk about going to therapy.
Yeah.
And I go to therapy too.
Mm-hmm.
My therapist's name is Sonia. She's a black woman. She brings me joy. She helps me.
I love Dr. Shamina.
Yeah, Dr. Shamina. Oh, she's black, huh?
Yes.
Dr. Shamina. But she asked you, because your mother passed, and she asked you if you felt like the wrong parent passed, right? Mm-hmm. My question to you is, how did your dad feel about you talking about that on the special?
My father is going through like an early case of dementia. So everything is, he'll watch stuff, but then it's almost like it ain't me.
Okay.
But I kind of like that because he's being honest. He's like, yo, this dude funny. I'm like, okay. No, but I've been talking about my family and stuff for a long time.
Right.
When she asked me that, it opened up a whole floodgate of a lot of things.
Right.
It wasn't that he did anything or did anything wrong. It's just my mother, we were really close.
Yeah.
And she was very affectionate. And she didn't mind telling me she was proud of me. Yeah. With him, he never really says it or said it for real, but he'll say it to other people. So
a lot of dads are like that.
I see other people on the street, your father talking with you all the time on the job. You passing out your flyers. I'm like, for real? He never said that. Like, so, but then once I started learning more about him, and the way he was raised, I understood him a lot more. My dad was really artsy. Like my cousins, my older cousins that was his age, they were like, your daddy was a square. All them would be doing drugs and he'd be like drawing or playing his trumpet or like he was such an artist, man.
That's where you get it from.
Yeah, 100%. But what I feel bad for him at is, I don't think he realized how gifted he was and nobody knew what to do with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, dang, he had like you could have stopped working years ago. Like my father would remake like war things with like these models and like it was, dude, it's insane what he was able to do.
Wow.
And he did it as a hobby, so I think I get a lot of my artsy from him and my mom. Yeah. I think that's probably why they married each other. I think they were two kind of like black sheep in their family. And man, they combined forces and created me and my brothers.
I wanted to ask you also, like when you're coming up with what you're going to discuss, like for example, you talk about the whole Chris Rock, Will Smith thing. Are they friends of yours? And if so, do you run something like that before one of them, or do you just y'all don't care because y'all comedians and it just is what it is?
Well, with this special in particular, I didn't have time to do anything. So whatever I said that night
Is what I said.
And so like me and Chris hasn't talked in a while. I mean, we were at one time we were really cool, and then you know things happen. You be like, I don't know if I really like this dude like that.
Okay.
But we cool. It's still respect there. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, how do I not say nothing about that? And
Right.
I didn't see any. I've seen kind of like all the other comics tiptoe around it.
Yeah. You didn't.
I didn't tiptoe at all. But it wasn't disrespectful to Will or Chris, because to be honest with you, I really wish those two would talk. You know, I respect Will a little more because he's owning it. And he's apologized a million times.
Yeah.
Chris Rock is interesting because he's kind of dancing around and maybe talk stuff on stage sometimes, but won't talk to this man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, either you're gonna let me hit you back or we're gonna have a discussion. I just think they're too big in Hollywood, especially as black men. It'd be beautiful if they could talk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Let's talk about this prayer that. Why you laughing at me?
You're like, okay, cool. No.
Yeah, no, because I know everybody gonna be like, why is she still asking him about it? But I mean, I was interested because I'm always wondering, like,
It ain't going nowhere anytime soon.
It's
I don't know
not.
why everybody keep thinking it's just gonna. It's not gonna disappear until Chris really said something,
right? I agree.
and he hasn't. And I wonder what that's about.
Yeah. Beyonce's mama, Miss Tina.
Miss Tina, yeah.
She prays for you before your big shows. How did that happen? And when did she start doing that?
She started doing it the first HBO special. There's the thing about Miss Tina too. You know, she's like Houston. I think got some of the nicest women I've ever met.
Really?
Like I tell people that all the time. Like Houston is the place.
Okay.
She just. You ever meet somebody just remind you of your mom so much? Like this how me and Miss Tina even really started talking. The first Black Panther. So Shaka Pilgrim, shout out to Shaka, who's one of Jay's really good friends and been working with Rock, Jay for a long time. Invited me to a screening. Now I thought this was like a screening with a lot of people coming to it.
Yeah. Regular people and a few celebs.
I show up, right? And I'm like, where everybody at? And Gerard shows up, and she's there. She's like, no, Rel, it's just Ryan Coogler is showing us this. I said, us who? And then that's when Beyonce and Jay walk in. I'm like, what? And then Miss Tina walking in. It's so weird. When they all walking together with the security, it just look like I don't know what it looks like. It's like some superheroes walking in. You remember like in the Marvel, which Marvel was it, where all the heroes showed up?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
That's what it looked like when they was walking in. And so we're seeing Black Panther for the first time before it came out. And Ryan Coogler is introducing the movie. And I'm sitting there like, now this is what makes this funny. I thought it was just like a regular screening. So I invited Hannibal Buress. So Hannibal shows up knocking on the window. It's like, yo, who invited Hannibal? It's like, I didn't know this was a exclusive. I thought this was a regular Hollywood screening. I didn't know this was like, nobody's supposed to be here seeing it. And so we watched the movie. Miss Tina's sitting next to me.
Okay.
And so we talking like the whole time through our little parts and stuff like that. And she was cool. But she left her phone.
Okay.
So I tell Jay, I said, Jay, Miss Tina, she's like, man, she always doing that. And I'm like, she left her phone. And then I get a call maybe like a week after that from maybe I think Robbie Reed. She's like, yo, Miss Tina wants you to host the Wearable Art Gala. I'm like,
nice.
So I think afterwards, because we were so cool, I think she started like watching stuff. And that's how it all started, man. And she's been she made my outfits. The year me and my kids went to the Wearable Gala and I didn't have time to get anything because I was shooting Free Guy in Boston. She literally went shopping for us, would not take my money back. You know what I mean? Would not let me do it. I had to buy like a portrait or something at the auction. But I was like, you getting this money.
Right. That's so sweet. That's so kind.
She's so but this is what I think people don't know about that family.
Okay. They
are truly kind. I think sometimes people look at when you have success that you always got to do something weird or extra to get it.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're just a good person and work hard, right? that happens too. They're like so kind. Like Beyonce's a sweetheart. I remember her and Kelly used to, like when I first started doing it, Miss Tina might say, hey, my mama always talking about you, Rel.
Oh.
She love you. you like our brother now. Like, for real? And so, man, Miss Tina wrote me a prayer before the first special because she couldn't be there. And it'd be specific for you. It's not like a group thing that it's literally, she writes it so you can say it out loud as if it's your prayer.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, yo, make sure the crew and the production is great, the lighting, the joke. Like, it's just very specific. And she did it again. And every time she's done it, it's been like the best night ever, man. She's just so anointed and just dope.
She got a direct connect.
Dude, because she's a good person.
Yeah, sounds very thoughtful.
She's so thoughtful. She's so caring. I mean, you can see why Beyonce's so successful. You know what I mean? Like, the way her parents, I think, just even with Matthew knows, like, they did a really good job. And so Miss Tina is second mom, and she's so supportive. It's always weird, because people are like, why how you know Miss Tina like that? That's my second mama.
When I read it, I was like,
yeah, Mama Tina. I love me some Mama Tina. And it came at the right time too, because like, I think for me the last few years, and that's why I've been going to therapy, I think I've been missing my mother a lot. And so I feel like, you know, my mama whispered in God's ear, like, all right, he need a second mama.
Yeah, God knows your mama knows what you need.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about your acting career.
Cool.
When you first started acting and making it big in terms of being an actor, did people kind of tell you to stay in your lane or only do like certain roles?
No, I've been able to like kind of do whatever I want to be honest with you. Like, I do whatever I think is dope. Like, you know, doing a Get Out or a Bird Box and Uncle Drew and like all the other Clouds. And it's like random movies now. Like my Honor Call, like, you in this movie too? Like, yeah. Like, it's like I pick a lot of random things. I mean, I think that's what's going to be interesting about 23 is the movies and the guest spots I've done on some shows. I like a challenge, man. And I like doing shows I like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That makes it easier, right?
Yeah, but it makes it fun. I think that's the cool thing about, like, if you're going to use your Hollywood muscle, use it for the right thing. I mean, that's how I got into Judas and the Black Messiah. Mm-hmm. You know, Fred Hampton, to my family, to Chicago, was an important story.
Yeah.
And so they was making, I'm like, well, I ain't in this movie. And I hit Ryan and the Lucid Brothers, hey man, what's up? And they made sure that's how I got the role in there.
So you didn't have to audition?
I haven't auditioned since Get Out.
Really?
No.
You really are famous.
No.
And talented.
But Jordan Peele said that. He was editing Get Out. I remember him calling me. He was like, hey man, start learning what your price is, Playboy. It's about to go down. I'm like, what do that mean? But no, I haven't auditioned since Get Out. So all these movies you see me in, straight up offers.
Wow. That's a blessing.
Yeah, I still see my friends self-tape. I be like, cool. You know, one of my boys like, man, you know how it is when you self-tape.
You like, actually, I don't.
Nah, man,
it's not my life no more. You're so famous.
Out, man. I haven't auditioned. But I just trusted your gift too, man. Like, you know, if you do what you're supposed to do, man, it'll work out in such a way that's crazy. That's why, like, 23, I think the special kicks everything off, but like, man, I hope y'all get tired of me.
We won't. Let's take a break and we'll come right back. Welcome back to Brutally Honest with Jasmine Brand. I'm here with Lil Rel. I want to list some of my favorite movies that you're in.
Okay, cool.
And I want you to tell me a memorable moment.
Okay.
Okay? Get Out.
I say this, I remember when the trailer came out and we were reshooting the ending of the movie, and all of us was just sitting there, I think we were just having drinks and just chilling. I was like, yo, what is this finna be? Because the trailer, people went crazy over the trailer.
The music alone.
And we were just like, yo, is this not the
be a thing?
No, and seriously, it was the first time all of us, I remember all of us sitting at the table and saying it and just sitting there like, just quiet for a second, like, yo, this might be a thing. And I still don't think we understood how it was gonna change all of our lives.
Southside.
I say the memorable moment was when Chance called me. So Chance ended up being on the show, but that's because he called me. He's like, yo, I love the show Southside, da da da. So I tell Bashir Diallo, who created the show and stars of the show, I was like, yo, Chance love the show. I think he wanna do it. And they just wrote that brilliant episode for him. And it's been a relationship since then. So that was cool that Chance called me out the blue one day. You know what I love about Chance the rapper is he's a fan. Like when he's a fan of something, he's a fan. So he was on set like so happy. You know what I mean?
So happy to be here.
He was so happy to be there. But that's how he got on the show and killed it.
Rel.
First of all, the accomplishment of getting my own sitcom named after me was surreal to do. I got a chance to do that with my best friends, Joshua Benowitz, Gerard Carmichael, Kevin Barnett, who passed away. Man, it was such a fun experience.
You talked about your experience on the Gerard Carmichael show and how Gerard isn't really, or at the time you felt like he wasn't really accepted by Black Hollywood. Do you still feel like that? And how do you define Black Hollywood?
It's so funny you say that. It's not necessarily accepted. It is this it can be very cliquey. You know what I mean? Like it feel like it's a group before us. Don't necessarily let everybody in. I remember I was having a conversation with a veteran actress. We kind of was bumping heads a little bit because it was like, well, I know this, I know that. But I'm like, can I be honest with you? Some of y'all even did some of the stuff we've done.
Right.
Some of you only been casted. So you haven't been in a conversation with the president of the network about why you want to do this, do that. So like, either we gonna listen to each other, because I think also a lot of them I feel like it's some bitterness in the doors they opened.
Okay.
Because we didn't have to go through what they went through. But I'm like, but you opened up the door so I wouldn't have to go through that.
Right, yeah.
And to learn that, okay, we need to own our shows. We need to be EPing them. We need to write them. We need to do this and do that.
Right.
It was so many hit shows in the 90s that a lot of them was just only casted on.
Yeah.
And that's fascinating.
So you feel like Black Hollywood is cliquish?
Very much so. I mean, like, Carmichael's show was really good.
It was.
But
I didn't catch onto it till like season 2. Like I was late with.
That's fine though, but you got to get and one thing about Gerard's not gonna he's just gonna do his thing, man.
Yeah.
He lets the work speak for itself.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Kenya Burris about Gerard one day. And it got a little heated. I didn't like what he was saying or how he saw Gerard. You know what I'm saying? Like, how was he able to do this? And I'm like, cause he writes and do everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just like you do, but he can do that too.
Right.
And he's very charming and he's smart. I think some people think that
he's cute too. He's easy on the eyes.
I feel like they just think white people gave Gerard this thing. Like, and a lot of times if you don't, this is just 100, like if Black people feel like that you got everything from mainstream, they kind of feel like we don't have to support you because you got them. But if you don't have that support, they're like, all right, we got your back. That's why you see half-ass things be supported. Like, yo, this not even good. Why y'all supporting this?
Because we have to, because they no support.
But that's what I'm saying. But I think you have to support everybody. We can't pick who's going to give us the opportunity.
Okay.
You can't even pick your fans. You don't know who's going to be a fan of you.
Right. Okay.
You don't.
That might be fair.
That is fair. Because I catch it all the time. I'm like, fam, I'm all the way from the chitlin circuit. What y'all want me to do?
Right.
I ain't got no hookup. Ain't nobody in my family doing this.
But I would consider you mainstream successful now.
100%.
Yeah.
But I've been able to do both.
Yes.
Like if anybody did it from if it was a handbook, you know how people it's a handbook. Think about it, from Comic View to the Oscars.
Right.
That's a real route.
That is. But is someone like Gerard, I have a hard time saying his name. Gerard, has he had the same?
His route was different. Only reason because, but what people don't realize, if you do good at that Just for Laughs festival in Montreal,
you good.
You good.
Okay.
And people forget that Kevin Hart had that type of lift. Kevin Hart had 2 careers. His first one was because mainstream Hollywood loved her. He had a sitcom on ABC and nobody remembers that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. Because mainstream, that's why he got his deals, because he was killing the festivals and showcases and Comedy Central.
Yeah.
And then when all that went away, I think Kevin's brilliance is when he decided to go back on the road again. And kind of like, I did the mainstream thing. Black people put Kevin back on top, and then he was able to combine forces because he knew both worlds.
Right.
And then boom, that's what it is, shoot doubles. So I don't know, man. Like I've seen, like Hannibal, people used to say about, you can't pick your audience. You don't know who's gonna give you the opportunity.
Yeah.
And what's weird about it, because you didn't give him the opportunity because either you may have thought you didn't like the way he did his stand-up or because he wasn't, Arnaz J. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just being honest.
Right.
It's this weird thing where we don't, and that's why a lot of the young guys are not supported because of this whole, white people gave you this thing, so how we gonna support? Fam, come on.
Yeah. But that has a little bit to do with maybe jealousy. Maybe they would have wanted that push.
Yeah, I've had questions like, how did Gerard get his show on NBC and y'all shot it on the Fox lot? Because that's what he asked for.
But that doesn't happen a lot, though.
I know.
So you got to understand.
So you should just be having a conversation with him instead of talking about him to somebody else.
A secure person would, but you know, we all need to go to therapy.
Yeah, I'm just saying. That's one of the things. I'm very defensive of a lot of my friends because I'm like, yo, like you think about even like the Lucas brothers who could be considered taking a mainstream route, but guess what? They wrote Judas and the Black Messiah. So, you know, say that with Gerard, Carmichael's show was black.
It was, yeah. It was
You know what I
really
mean?
black.
Black, and he didn't mind hitting on so many topics on that show.
Yeah, I really liked that show.
And we could have came back. We didn't come back because Gerard.
He didn't want to, right?
Well, it was because we, you know, I think they was gonna cut some of the budget. He felt like all of us should get more money, especially after Get Out and Girls Trip came out. He felt like me and Tiffany should get paid from that.
Yeah.
And because they weren't gonna
She
take
was
care
on
of us.
there.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's what I'm
goodness.
saying. It's like
What's the biggest lesson you learned working on that show?
on Carmichael's show.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be your show, the work you gotta put in. Gerard, you know, he had his writers, but he took that script home every night home to rewrite, to make sure it was right. Starring in it, he made sure the show was his life. And that's tough to do, man. Like, he did it, but I had a hard time doing that with Rel, making it just my life.
Right.
But that's what it is. It becomes your life.
Right. And that's overwhelming too. I gotta imagine.
It can be if you don't know how to sit still, which that's my problem. So
Okay.
that made it tough for me, but I learned a lot from it. I learned how to lead better because of Gerard too. I give Gerard a lot of props, man. I've never seen nobody with that type of work ethic.
Right.
And he's really smart. Random people that call him for advice. You wouldn't believe the people that call
Really?
Gerard for advice.
All right, let's hold that thought. We'll come right back. Welcome back to Brutally Honest with Jasmine Brand. I'm here with Lil Rel. I want to talk about your personal business, your love life. In your special, you actually talk about being in an adult relationship. What's that mean? A grown relationship. What's that mean?
Like me and Daniela is just like
She's pretty too.
she's fine. We're just adults. Like, it was so interesting because like you would thought we've been together way longer than what we have, but I think when two grown people who ain't playing games, we just being honest.
Yeah.
It's been one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. Like, and I've been married before. And
Yes.
in love before and all that stuff, but this is totally different. I like how she appreciates me. I remember saying this one time in an interview, being with her is the first time I ever felt seen.
That's the therapy talking to me. I can say.
Well, because you realize that people only see what they want to see, and Virgin, especially as a man,
Right.
you know, she's been able to see me cry and hurt, but don't look at me as less of a man just because I show emotion.
Right.
And I love that.
I want to switch gears and talk about therapy really quick. What have you learned the most by going to therapy?
It's okay to let things out. It's okay to feel a certain way. It's okay not to be perfect. I remember my therapist was getting on me one day about this because I'm like, when I was still single and I was talking to her, I'm like, why these women be all in my face and all that stuff? And she just like, Rel, okay, you're, well, who do you think you are? How do you think you look? And she started challenging me. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I realized that like when 12-year-old me went through whatever he went through, I created another version of myself so nobody could really break my heart and things like that.
Gotcha.
But then I learned that I remember in that one session, it was so emotional. I closed my eyes and talked to 12-year-old me. It's like, all right, we became the cool kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all.
My therapist trying to have me do that. I'm not ready to talk to me as a kid. I ain't ready for that. I'm scared of that. Okay.
But we got to do it, man.
Yes.
I know it's fear in that, but like
Yes, it is.
when adult you stands up for little you is when your life changes.
Okay. Okay. Before I end every interview, I ask like general random life questions, and then I'll let you go. So are you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay. What keeps you up at night?
My creative brain,
Is it always going?
it's always going.
Okay. If you were to create a modern day Kings of Comedy, who would be in it, including yourself, of course?
Take me out of it.
Okay, I'll take you out of it.
Earthquake, Donnell Rollins. I say let's make it kings and queens instead of just one thing.
Okay, I love that.
Wanda Sykes, JB Smooth,
Okay. Who would you put on your comedy Mount Rushmore?
Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Moms Mabley.
Didn't know that one.
You didn't know that was coming, did you? Robin Harris. And Bernie Mac, honorable mention.
Okay, I knew Bernie Mac was gonna be in there. Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. I didn't. Oh, okay, I like that. You put an extra one in there. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Well, from Danella, she compliments me all the time. I had to get used to that, actually. I didn't realize that was a thing, too, to therapy. Is like, I couldn't handle compliments.
Make you uncomfortable?
It made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't. It's a compliment.
Yeah. What's the craziest rumor you ever heard about yourself?
Man, somebody had said I bought somebody a beauty shop. It was somebody in Chicago, whole Chicago, like, yeah, Rel bought her a shop. I ain't buying nobody no shop.
That's hilarious. Well, this is a good question. What's the priciest thing you've ever splurged on?
Ooh, that's a tough one, because
You like things?
I like things.
Okay.
I got one of my cars repainted, and
Okay.
it don't even look like the same car no more.
What's the best thing that's happened to you this year?
Meeting my soulmate. Our connection has changed my life.
Window or aisle seat?
Ow.
Oh, okay.
Gotta use the bathroom.
Bathroom, yeah. What's your biggest professional regret?
When I was doing my show, Rel,
Okay.
I wish I would have trusted my writers more. You gotta trust the people you hire.
Yeah.
You can't do everything.
Your favorite movie of all time?
But it's categories for me. Because Come to America, and it's a
Okay.
movie called Simon Birch.
Never saw it.
One of my favorite movies. It's a tearjerker, though.
What lesson in life took you the longest to learn?
You just can't be perfect.
Okay.
Perfection is so unrealistic.
Yeah. If you could pick one song as the soundtrack to your life, what would you pick?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the song, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Last question. If you could ask God a question and he would answer loud and clear, what would you ask God?
Why do you love me so much? You know, God still loves me no matter what.
Grace.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a beautiful conversation, super funny, super enlightening. Make sure you check out his new comedy special. He has a bunch of new projects that are coming up in 2023. And make sure you catch Brutally Honest with Jasmine Brand every Monday night on FOXSOUL.